Today we're diving into a topic that most creators tend to avoid: exactly how much XRP a person should actually own. My goal with this video is to hand you a framework that could genuinely reshape the way you think about your own position size. Because honestly, the internet is flooded with people throwing out arbitrary figures without any real reasoning behind them. By the time this video wraps up, you'll have a clear, logical way to answer that question for yourself. Stay with me through the whole thing, because I promise this is going to be worth your time. Hey guys, welcome back to Whiteboard Crypto Update. In today's video, we will talk about XRP. So be sure to stay focused, as you surely don't want to miss out on this. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications by hitting the bell so you never miss any of our uploads. This video is for educational purposes only. It is not financial advice. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions. Before we get into the main topic, let's touch on a piece of news that caught my attention. A report released by the National Cryptocurrency Association revealed that there are currently 232,000 jobs tied to the crypto industry here in the United States. My immediate reaction was simple. Just imagine what happens once real regulatory clarity finally arrives. If the industry has already grown to this size without clear rules in place, I feel comfortable making a couple of confident predictions. First, once regulation lands, this sector could easily expand tenfold, maybe more. Second, we're likely looking at an industry that reaches multiple tens of trillions of dollars in value far sooner than most people expect. What really stands out to me is that this growth is happening even though the industry has spent roughly a decade fighting for basic fairness and legitimacy. That tells me this space is only getting started, and the momentum is only going to build from here. Seeing that job number reinforced something I already believed, that regulatory clarity is coming and mainstream adoption is already underway, even while the industry faces resistance at nearly every turn. It's unfolding right in front of us, in real time. There's one more piece of news worth mentioning. Earlier today, Ripple's minting platform for RLUSD officially launched. In simple terms, this gives institutions, businesses, and companies a much easier way to access RLUSD, allowing them to mint and redeem the stablecoin through APIs, complete with a dashboard for management. This is essentially another building block that makes RLUSD more accessible and business-friendly, further cementing Ripple's ambition to become the ultimate one-stop destination for crypto services. Ripple has always aimed to be the Amazon of crypto, and I see this as yet another move that sets them apart from the competition. Their vision is clear. If a business wants to step into crypto, Ripple should be the obvious choice. To make that happen, they need every single component of the ecosystem to work seamlessly together, so companies never have to look elsewhere. No other player in this space is executing this kind of strategy. It's a brilliant approach, essentially building an all-in-one platform the way Amazon did for retail. Every new feature Ripple rolls out strengthens their position as the go-to partner in this industry. Nobody else is operating at this scale or with this level of ambition. I genuinely believe that when we look back on this era, those of us who understood what was happening will say it was obvious all along. Meanwhile, the skeptics, the ones who dismissed XRP's purpose or claimed Ripple was just selling tokens without a real business, will eventually realize the signs were there the entire time. Now let's get into the real subject of this video, a question that so many people seem to overcomplicate. How much XRP is the right amount to hold? I actually think the answer is far simpler than most people make it out to be, and there's a solid framework for working it out. The core idea is that the amount of XRP you hold should reflect your personal confidence in its long-term success. Let's say your entire net worth is $10,000. Should all of it be sitting in XRP? Almost certainly not, because you'd become too emotionally entangled with the asset and you'd have zero cushion. You need a safety net. You need an emergency reserve, enough cash to cover roughly 6 months of expenses in case something unexpected happens, like losing your job or facing a sudden financial hit. You don't want your essential liquidity trapped inside a volatile asset like XRP because even modest gains could trigger short-term capital gains taxes if you're forced to sell, leaving you in a worse position overall. That's simply not a sound investing approach. Now flip the scenario. If your net worth is $1 million, does it make sense to have $100,000 in XRP? If your conviction is strong, then absolutely yes. Interestingly, I've spoken with multimillionaires who hold 10, 20, even 50 million XRP tokens, and many of them still feel like they don't own enough. That feeling of not enough doesn't necessarily go away no matter how much you accumulate. This reminds me of something similar from my own experience investing in Tesla years ago. Back then, I felt like I had way too much invested. Everyone around me warned that the company was too risky, that it might collapse, that Elon Musk was untrustworthy. After Tesla's value skyrocketed, I reflected on one of the most valuable lessons I've ever learned. I compared my actual confidence level in Tesla's success against how much capital I had allocated. Not what my family said, not what the pundits on financial news were saying, but my own genuine belief. And honestly, my conviction in Tesla was sky high. I was almost certain it would succeed, and it did. Yet despite everyone telling me I was overexposed and taking on too much risk, the only regret I walked away with was not investing even more in line with how confident I truly felt. So if you're spreading your confidence across several cryptocurrencies, and XRP is simply one piece of that portfolio, then the right allocation depends on your belief in each one individually. Maybe out of $100,000 invested in crypto overall, $25,000 in XRP feels right for you. But suppose you don't have much interest in tracking the rest of the market. You can't tell the difference between Solana and Sui, or between HBAR and XDC. And you're thinking, some of these projects might succeed, some might not, but XRP is the one I feel most confident about. That's not necessarily reckless, even though a lot of people would label it as such. I'm not telling anyone to cash out their 401k or drain their IRA to go all in on a single asset. That kind of blanket advice wouldn't make sense for anyone's unique circumstances. But there's a common misconception that concentrating in one cryptocurrency is automatically riskier than spreading across 10. Think about it this way. Holding only Apple stock after the dot-com crash wouldn't have been a bad move at all. In fact, you would have done exceptionally well. Sure, you might have missed out on Google, but who cares? If you'd spread your money across a random assortment of internet companies instead, you likely would have underperformed compared to just holding Apple, since Apple ended up being one of the best performing stocks of all time. Was it obvious back then that Apple would succeed? Maybe not, if you were skeptical of tech in general. But we're not skeptics here. We're people who see potential in this space, similar to how some recognized Apple's revolutionary impact with the smartphone long before it became mainstream. Plenty of people underestimated that shift entirely, or thought the risk was too great to bear. What matters most is understanding how much capital you can comfortably invest while still maintaining a sense of security. Once you've set aside what you need for safety, the next question becomes, out of the money you're willing to invest. Because let's be honest, you need to invest something or inflation will slowly erode your wealth. How confident are you in XRP compared to every other opportunity available to you? If you look at your overall investment portfolio and feel that half of it comfortably belongs in XRP, while the rest is spread across other assets you believe in, maybe some individual stocks, maybe an ETF, whatever suits your strategy, then that's a perfectly reasonable allocation for you. On the other hand, if your net worth is $5,000 and you're holding 2,500 XRP tokens and you're still comfortably covering your bills and expenses, that's also a great position. Arguably even more impressive than someone with $1 billion net worth holding 50 million XRP. It all comes down to a ratio. Your XRP holdings relative to your total net worth, not the raw number of tokens or dollars involved. So don't measure your conviction, or your progress, or the ultimate goal you're chasing based purely on how much you own in absolute terms. It's a personal calculation for every individual, and there's genuine risk in going too far in either direction. I've seen people accumulate massive XRP positions that ultimately put them in a difficult financial spot. I've also seen people hold very little and later regret not committing more. At the end of the day, you can't dump every dollar you have into one asset and simply hope for the best. Hope isn't a real strategy. You need liquidity. You need to manage your finances responsibly. But on the flip side, if you truly have exceptional conviction in an asset, you need the courage to back that belief with real capital. Because most people who spot a promising opportunity never actually act on it. They see the potential, they recognize the upside, but they don't believe they're the kind of person who can capitalize on it. If you can strike the right balance between those two extremes, and trust me, I've experienced both ends of that spectrum myself. There have been stretches where I probably held more XRP than was ideal relative to my overall net worth, and other times where I was probably underexposed. But here's the key insight. If XRP eventually reaches an extraordinary valuation, someone holding 50 million tokens and someone holding just 10,000 tokens will both come out equally ahead, provided their XRP to net worth ratio was the same to begin with. Your starting point should be based on your actual circumstances, paired with a strategy that maximizes your ability to hold through the long haul without folding under pressure. And if you're genuinely bullish on XRP, if it's the one asset where your research and conviction line up and you understand the risks involved, then there's truly no meaningful difference between someone whose maximum comfortable investment is 10,000 tokens and someone whose ceiling is 10 million. Both individuals will experience the same percentage gains, and both will see their financial situations transformed in proportion to their commitment. So, take some time to genuinely reflect on this for yourself. Sit down, really think it through, and ask yourself honestly what your true confidence level is. You don't want to overextend yourself beyond what's responsible, but you also don't want to end up in a future where everything plays out exactly as you predicted, only to look back and wonder why you didn't trust yourself enough to act on it. Because honestly, that kind of regret is one of the hardest feelings to shake. Well, guys, that's all we have for you today. What are your thoughts on XRP? Get involved and let us know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching.